Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited to be talking to you this morning about staying calm, cool, and collected at work, even under pressure. So, if you are here live, say hello in the chat. I see many of you are already here. Kevin, great to have you. Rupali, Joy, Inez, wonderful to have you here today. And I want to ask you all a question. If you have ever had one of those days at work where you feel like everything is spiraling, you feel like your emotions were about to just burst out of you, have you ever been there before? If so, you are in exactly the right place today. And we have all been there. There's maybe a last minute project that is dumped in your lap, a colleague takes you by surprise with some unexpected feedback, a call with a customer or a client doesn't go as planned, and suddenly your emotions threaten to take the driver's seat. So, hello to Abbas, Sherry, Sarah, great to have you, Javad, James, Michelle, Barbara, excellent. Let me know where you are watching from today. Teresa, hey there. Awesome. So happy to have you here. Well, I wanted to come on here today because I believe that stress and strong emotions are common. They are par for the course, especially when you are striving for big things in your career. And I also believe that they don't have to hinder you. That yes, even when your heart races, you feel that knot in your stomach. Being calm, cool, and collected is a skill. And that means it's something you can hone, you can grow, you can master. And I want you to just imagine how different your workday would be if, in the middle of all the chaos happening, you could center yourself. You could approach challenges with grace and more poise. And just picture how much more respect you could earn from your peers, the trust you would gain from those above you, the inner peace you'd feel knowing that you are more in control of yourself and the situation. So, if you want to hear more about that, you are in the right place today. Type +1 in the chat if all of that sounds good to you. Now, if you are here joining live, say hello in the chat. Let me know where you are watching from today. Jason, great to have you in Montreal. James in the UK. Lorena in Toronto. Kevin in London. Rachel, Cleveland. Inez also in the UK. Great to have you here. Joy in Atlanta. L'Oreal in Chicagoland. Rashu in India. Thanks for staying up with us. Excellent. Sarah, good to see you. Amit in India. Excellent. Okay, keep those coming in. Say hello in the chat. I'd love to know where you are watching from today. I'm going to be throwing a lot of information your way today. So, as I'm going along, please type what is resonating with you, your biggest takeaways, what's standing out to you in the chat. Today's session is going to go pretty fast. So, please help out your fellow learners here. Type any big takeaways in the chat so that others can get the benefit of that as well. Now, before we go any further, I'd like to introduce myself so you know you're in good hands today. I'm Melody Wilding. I am a professor of human behavior. I am an executive coach, and I am the author of a book called Trust Yourself. Stop overthinking and channel your emotions for success at work. That last part is especially relevant to what we'll be talking about today. I'm also the creator of a program called Resilient, which is a first of its kind 3-month group coaching program to help sensitive high achievers like you regain your confidence, master your emotions, and reach your full potential at work. And it's a big week here because Resilient, the final live round of 2023, begins this Thursday. So just a couple days from today. And not only that, the enrollment for this final round closes tomorrow. So if you want more information about this, we still have a few spots available so you can sneak in before the deadline. There's a QR code here on the screen. All you have to do is open your phone, go to your camera app, and that will bring you right to a page where you can learn all of the details. You can see success stories from our alumni. And the link is here on the screen as well. It's melodywilding.com/resilient. So if you want to go from being riddled by self-doubt, consumed by overthinking, exhausted from overextending yourself, if you want to go from all of that to feeling more self-assured, grounded, like your most confident self in the workplace, then I want to invite you to join us. And like I said, you can take out your phone, take a photo of that QR code here, or head to melodywilding.com/resilient. But remember, enrollment closes tomorrow, and this is the final round of the year. You deserve to close out this year strong. Don't write yourself off yet, as one of my favorite bands, Jimmy Eat World, says. You deserve to have the right tools and the mindset to be your best, even when the pressure is on. And Resilient can help you do that. So we would love to have you inside. I hope you join us. Now, speaking of being your best, even under pressure, today we're talking about one of the biggest topics we often end up talking about in Resilient, which is managing emotions at work. And it makes sense why this would be top of mind and such a huge challenge for so many of us. First off, it's no secret, the boundaries between our professional lives and our personal lives have blurred significantly. Many of us are always on. Give me a me if you feel like that. If you feel like you are always on, tethered to your job around the clock. Our work emails come up on our phones during family dinners. We're catching up on things over the weekend. And that constant connection means there's very little break from workplace stress. And let's see, Amit, yes, this session will be recorded today. You can come back to this page where you're watching it, just refresh, and you'll be able to watch the recording after that. So no worries if you have to hop off. Yeah, I see Nicole saying me. She relates to that feeling of being always on. L'Oreal. Inez also saying, yes, Amber, good to see you. Yeah, so a lot of you. That constant connection to work means we have little respite. We have little time to recover from all the workplace stress we're experiencing. And add to that, second, the pace of change we're experiencing is truly unprecedented. Industries are evolving overnight, it seems. Things like AI are totally transforming industries seemingly overnight. Job roles are continually shifting. There's constant pressure on all of us to upskill and adapt to that. And while all of that can be great, it pushes us to innovate, to be better, to grow. Sometimes it creates this underlying current of uncertainty and insecurity. And when we as humans feel uncertain or we feel threatened, our fear response kicks in. And that ratchets up the dial on our emotions even more. And if you are someone who considers yourself what I call a sensitive striver, someone who is both highly sensitive and high achieving, these are people who care immensely about their work. They work hard, they feel deeply. For you, if you consider yourself to be a sensitive striver, it can feel like your emotions are an 11 or 12 out of 10 because of the way you're wired. You're naturally empathetic. You have an inherent ability to tap into the emotions of other people around you. But I want you to imagine that you're in a high stress situation, emotions are running high. You can sense, you absorb, you internalize every bit of that emotional energy. That can be really, really, really overwhelming. And for us sensitive strivers, our very strength, our empathy, can become a vulnerability if we don't have the right awareness and the right tools. Plus, If you are someone who considers yourself a sensitive striver, and let me know in the chat if that is you. Say me if you identify as being a sensitive striver in the chat. If that is you, then you have a heightened physiological response to stress. That's what being highly sensitive means. It means being highly responsive. Your nervous system is more reactive to what's going on within and around you. So that adrenaline rush that comes with a tight deadline or a challenging meeting, you feel that 5, 10-fold. And add to that your own inner experience. As sensitive strivers, we tend to hold ourselves to incredibly high standards. And that can mean you have a harsh inner critic that never takes time off, which only intensifies the emotions you feel. And I see a lot of you relating to being a sensitive striver. Yes, you are in the right place then today. So, as you might be gathering from what I'm sharing, for us sensitive strivers, our very traits, which can be massive strengths in the right environments and situations, can become a struggle if we don't understand them and manage them correctly. And as an executive coach now for over 11 years, I've had the privilege of working with some of the brightest minds in various industries, all levels of seniority, and time again, I have seen smart, very talented leaders and professionals grapple with their own emotions. And worst of all, let their reactions get in their way. And this isn't because they're not skilled or they're not intelligent, but because emotional management in high stress situations is tough for everyone, right? So if you have struggled with this, there's nothing wrong with you. It means you're human. But there is good news here that when you have helpful tools, you have helpful techniques, the right mindset, it's entirely possible to navigate these tough situations with more confidence. So I'm going to guess that some of you here might be thinking to yourself, but Melody, you don't get it. I've always been emotional, and that's just part of who I am. Or you might be thinking, yeah, but my workplace stress isn't like everyone else's. It's much more unique and much more intense. And trust me, I have heard these concerns countless times from coaching clients, from our members of Resilient. And there have even been many times in my own career where I have felt that same way. But here's the catch, that holding on to that belief, believing that your emotionality is set in stone, that's potentially a major part of what's holding you back. Because when you latch on to that belief, you put yourself into a box that says, this is just how it is. There's nothing I can do about it. You become helpless. And worst of all, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy often. Because when you resign yourself to, well, I'm just naturally emotional, what are you going to do about it? That's just how I am. You inadvertently shut the door to any possibility of growth or potential. Now, I am not saying that you will magically transform overnight or that your workplace challenges will just suddenly vanish once you start working on these skills. That's unrealistic. But when you adopt a more flexible and growth-oriented mindset, you open yourself up to different insights that can drastically improve your emotional agility, right? We can never get rid of our emotions, nor would we want to, but we can learn to respond to them and work with them in more productive ways. So I want to be clear here that the aim isn't at all to change who you are fundamentally, but to enhance and refine the way you do respond to emotional situations and stressful situations. And Rachel was saying, totally relate. I take any criticism, good or bad, and internalize it. It's a consequence of being a perfectionist and not wanting to hurt others. Yes, 100%. That is very common for sensitive strivers, Rachel. Yeah. Now, this whole idea of emotional agility, flexibility, this is something we look at very closely inside of Resilient. So when you join, you get access to my proprietary assessment. It's called the Strive diagnostic, to measure, to give you data about your own level of emotionality. And we use that measurement to visually map and track throughout the course over our 90 days together, so you can see your growth firsthand. You can see your emotionality move up over time and on which exact dimensions you're moving up on over time. Okay, so again, if you're interested in learning more about Resilient, we start on Thursday, this Thursday. Enrollment closes tomorrow, so about 24 hours from now. If you want in on that, if you want more of the details, we have a few spots still left. You can head to the QR code here on the screen. You can also head to melodywilding.com/resilient. So today we're setting you on that path to emotional balance. And I don't just want to talk about theory or just general advice, but I want to give you some actionable steps that you can begin using after this conversation today. Because when your emotionality is more balanced, you don't just feel better, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I want you to feel better and more empowered and more confident. But you also perform better. You're able to serve and show up for others in a more powerful way. Balancing your emotionality isn't about suppressing your feelings or becoming totally stoic, emotionally distant. It's about honing an ability that allows you to process, understand, and express your feelings in a more constructive manner. And when you do that, the benefits are huge. When you can pause, even for just 5 to 10 seconds, you give yourself a buffer. And that short window, that minor pause, allows your brain to shift from a reactive stance to a more proactive one. So you're not just reacting on impulse, you're choosing your response. You have more agency in the situation. And this means your decisions are made more thoughtfully, and it brings down any chance that you may regret. You may say something you regret or do something you regret. Or in my situation, I know when I get emotional, I start glossing over details because I'm anxious, I'm rushing, I'm worried, and I start missing critical things. Second, you strengthen your relationships. So how many times have you said something in the heat of the moment that you wish you could later take back? By balancing our emotional responses, we can have healthier, more productive, more joyful interactions with our colleagues, our friends, our family. And all of that means fewer misunderstandings, fewer conflicts, which I think all of us can agree we would like more of. And plus, in the workplace, the ability to remain calm and composed is often equated with strength and leadership potential. When you pause before reacting, you exude confidence, control, that elusive executive presence. And this can be influential in how people see you, whether that's your peers, your direct reports, those above you, and how they interact with you. And most importantly, when you are able to achieve greater emotional balance, you trust yourself more. You believe in your ability to handle challenging situations, to navigate complex conversations, and all of that means stronger confidence, higher self-worth. So, how's that sound? Who wants more of this? Whether it's stronger relationships, being perceived more as a leader, stronger self-trust. Who wants this? Give me a +1 in the chat. Give me a +1 in the chat. Excellent. Now, here's a fundamental truth. When it comes to managing emotions at work, what you resist persists. I want to say that again. Someone help me out by typing this in the chat. When it comes to managing emotions at work, what you resist persists, which means that the longer you try to fight your emotions, to change them, to tell yourself you're wrong for even having them, the longer you are going to struggle. Yet that is what so many of us do. We treat our emotions like we're trying to hold a beach ball underwater. So just imagine you have a beach ball, you're in a pool, and you're trying to push it underwater. You keep pushing it down, using all of your force to do that. But then as soon as you lift your hands up, what happens? It comes up and it smacks you in the face with even more force than before. That's what happens when you try to suppress your emotions. They will come back and they will leak out in other ways. And here's another analogy for you. I want you to think of your emotions like the weather. It's raining here today. I'm in New Jersey. It's raining here today. Your emotions, like the weather, are always present, whether you like it or not. Your emotions are important to consider, to understand, to identify, but they don't necessarily need to override your plans. So when the weather is bad, again, it's raining here today or it's not to my liking, it doesn't mean I throw a fit, I cancel all of my plans because of it, as much as I want to curl up in my bed and just snuggle the day away. Instead, you accept the weather and you adjust accordingly. And not only that, if you avoid your emotions, you miss out on the valuable information in your emotional responses. I want to give you a very important reframe that your emotions are signposts about what is important to you. Your emotions are signposts about what's most important to you. They tell us when we have a need, a desire that needs to be fulfilled. They're trying to get our attention. So anger can be a sign that a value or a standard that's important to you has been violated. Frustration can be a sign that you need to be more flexible with your approach because what you've been trying is not working. Overwhelm can mean it's time to prioritize, to look at what you can control. And loneliness can be a signal that you need to connect with other people, right? That you need to reach out. So in this way, your emotions are not a liability. They can be an asset that guide your actions. They can actually help you make decisions for the better if you realize this. So although, trust me, I understand this may seem easier said than done, you can begin treating your emotional life like you treat the weather by accepting and preparing for it. So let's talk about how you do that. I want to give you 5 tips today for doing that. Tip number 1 is to get granular. Someone help me out by typing that in the chat. Tip number 1, get granular. So instead of shrugging off your reaction by, oh, I'm just feeling off today, I'm just feeling a bit down, I'm fine. Get specific. Are you anxious? Are you bummed out? Are you jealous? You can't manage what you can't put into words, which is why it's so important that you identify your emotions with specificity. Do you feel disappointed, embarrassed? And studies show that naming your emotions with more specificity immediately releases their grip over you. Dr. Matthew Lieberman, he is a UCLA professor. He found in his research that simply naming our emotions is like turning down the dial on your amygdala, which is the emotional center, the fear center of your brain. So naming emotions turns down the responsiveness in that area, which is like loosening fear's grip over us. Because when we can name what we're feeling, we can process it more effectively. So getting granular is valuable for a few reasons. First, it helps you understand the why behind your reactions. Instead of feeling like your feelings are coming out of nowhere, they're taking control over you, you can recognize they're not random. They're a response to a certain trigger, situation, person. So by identifying, by labeling our emotions, we're better equipped to recognize these triggers and to take steps to mitigate them, prepare for them in the future. So, for instance, if you are always getting agitated during sudden team meetings that come up, is it because you feel annoyed? You feel unprepared? You feel caught off guard? You feel your time is not honored? Naming the emotion can provide clarity. It gives you a head start in addressing the actual root cause. The second reason why naming your emotions is valuable is because when you are in a high stress workplace, the last thing you need or want is for your emotions to control you. So when you identify what you're feeling, when you label it, you're not suppressing or ignoring it. You're not pushing the beach ball underwater, like I said before. You're merely acknowledging them. You're coexisting beside it. And it's like saying, hey, disappointment or anxiety or worry or jealousy, I see you. And that act of recognition helps your brain compartmentalize your emotion, which can be incredibly empowering and incredibly calming because it gives you a bit of distance from your feelings where you can make more rational decisions rather than being hijacked by them. All right, I want to check in the chat here. Lola was saying great advice. Thank you, Lola. All right. Patricia was saying, I love this. Treat your emotions like the weather, that they're always present, accept them, and be prepared to handle them. And Emerson, I like that, calling it out and naming it. Excellent. So last reason why this idea of naming and identifying emotions is powerful, better communication. Have you ever had a misunderstanding with a colleague because they misinterpreted how you were feeling? It happens very often, more often than we care to think. So when you are more precise about what you're feeling, people understand more about where you're coming from. You can express yourself more clearly. So instead of saying, I'm upset about this project, you can say, I'm frustrated because I felt my input was overlooked during the meeting. That paints a much clearer picture that can help you get to a more effective resolution. All right, that was tip number 1, get granular. Tip number 2, someone help me out by typing that in the chat. Tip number 2, creating distance. Tip number 2 is creating distance from your emotional responses. We have all been there. We have all had those times, that moment when your blood pressure skyrockets, your face starts to heat up, and we just react, often without thinking. That's our raw, undistilled emotional response coming through. It's almost instantaneous, it's powerful, and many times it's not even entirely rational. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could hit the pause button on that? We could take a step back and choose how we respond. That's exactly what creating distance from our emotions means. So I'm going to give you another analogy. You can tell I love analogies here. Think of your emotions a little bit like a painting. If you're up close, you have the painting right here. It just looks like a blur of colors, shapes, textures. But when you step back a bit from it, you can see the bigger picture. You can see the design, the cohesion, the representation becomes clear. So by the same token, when you create distance from your emotions, they're not here. You give yourself space to step back from that immediate, intense grip so you can view the situation more holistically. One of my favorite ways to have clients do this to gain objectivity is by writing about their emotions and using this specific structure. I'm having the feeling that I'm blank because. So I'm having the feeling that I'm frustrated because. I'm having the feeling that I'm overwhelmed because. I'm trying to think of emotions on the spot here. Doing this, using this structure, and then journaling about that helps you create distance from your feelings so you realize they're just temporary inner experiences. And all of this operates on a principle that's called cognitive restructuring. I'm not going to quiz you on this, but I want you to understand the science behind it. This is called cognitive restructuring. So, as that name pretty much suggests, this is all about altering, changing our negative or unhelpful thought patterns. So, when we write down our emotions in a structured way, we're essentially challenging and reframing our automatic reaction. Instead of drowning or spiraling in that emotion, we can recognize it. Again, it's a temporary, transient experience. It's something we're undergoing, but it's not a permanent state. It's not a reflection of our identity, our worth, our capability. And also, it allows you to be more objective. When you see your feelings down on paper, you can more easily take a third person outsider perspective. And again, it's as if you're reading about someone else's experiences. And that detachment, again, that distance is vital because it allows you to see your emotions with less judgment, a clearer mind. And there's also validation that by acknowledging our feelings, we're giving them validity. Most of us, as sensitive strivers, we've been told our entire life to stop being so upset, to stop taking things so personally, to quit being sensitive, to grow a thicker skin, right? Give me a me if you have ever heard those things from people. So it can be really transformational to validate what you are feeling. And this is really critical if you are in a high stress situation where your immediate instinct might be to just brush it off, to say, yeah, you need to get over it. You need to get back to work, nose to the grindstone. Just this doesn't matter. Come on, you're stronger than this. You're better than this. But writing out your feelings quickly, I'm not saying you have to take 2 hours to journal on this. This can be 5, 10 minutes. Allows you to say to yourself, yes, I feel this way. That's okay. And I can change it. So this is about balancing self-compassion, where self-compassion is not the same as laziness. And in a fast-paced environment where there's little room for you to have a long, drawn-out emotional spiral, this one technique really allows you to recover more quickly. Now, while it's one thing to understand this technique of creating distance and writing down your feelings, it takes consistent practice. So, if it helps, dedicate a few minutes, a few times a week. Maybe it's at the end of your workday. Do it outside of the heat of the moment and just take stock of the strong emotions you felt and use that sentence structure. I'm having the feeling that blank. And over time, that exercise can really be transformative. Okay, we're on to our third tip. So far, we have talked about getting granular, identifying and naming your emotions with more specificity. Tip number 2, creating distance from your emotional responses. Now we're going to talk about tip number 3, change your environment. Change your environment. Someone help me out by typing that in. And Connie, you are getting right to exactly what we're going to talk about. Connie asked, instead of journaling, would exercise, physical activity like yoga help too? That's exactly what we're talking about. Physically disconnecting from the situation or changing your state always helps. So maybe you step away from your desk, do a quick lap around the block, you do a quick meditation from your couch, you just get up to grab a cup of coffee. Now, on the surface, this may seem painfully simple. And that's often because the most foundational things, the most simple things, are often the most effective. Because when you change your physical state, you're in a better position to change your mental state. I want to say that again. When you change your physical state, you're in a better position to change your mental state. So just imagine you are grappling with a challenging decision, or you're trying to recover from a setback. You're at your desk, you're surrounded by reminders of work, you see your inbox piling up. Maybe that's even the area where you had a recent conflict with someone. And all of that can feel like you're trapped in this emotional echo chamber. So by stepping away, whether it's to another room, it's outdoors, you you break that echo chamber. You offer your brain new stimuli. Your senses get a reset, especially if it's nature. You see the beautiful trees and leaves. You hear the sounds of the birds chirping, or even if it's just the hum and the light of a different room. And that stimuli, that change in stimuli can act as like a reset to your brain. There was a study from the University of Illinois that found that micro breaks vastly improve focus and overall performance. So when it comes to emotion management, these micro breaks, especially ones that involve a change in your physical state or your environment, they allow you to mentally step back from an emotionally charged situation. Standing up, stretching, yoga, walking around. It's not just about the physical relief. Psychologically, it signals a break from whatever task or emotion or situation was consuming you. So I would love to hear in the chat, what is your favorite way to take a micro break? What is your favorite way to take a micro break? Jason was saying, go for a cup of tea, go for a run, get on the bike. Exactly. Yes. So all of this is a symbolic way of telling yourself that I'm not bound to this emotion. I'm not bound to this situation. I don't need to let it control me. And again, all of that creates a small but crucial mental gap. And that is a stepping stone to more clarity, calmness. Now, I know some of you might be wondering, but Melody, I work in a very high stress job. Do I really have the luxury to just walk away? The answer is usually yes. The few minutes, again, we're talking about 5-10 minutes here. Those few minutes you spend recalibrating can save you hours of lower productivity, self-sabotaging yourself, conflict later on. Emotionally charged decisions and reactions can have a ripple effect. They can have really far-reaching consequences. So the time and energy spent in taking just a little bit of a micro break often outweighs the time that you would have to spend rectifying any of those missteps. Okay, let me see what some of your favorite micro breaks are. Let's see. Emily said taking a walk. Shauna said running. Anna said stretching, walking in nature. Rupali going for a walk. Amber said the 80-20 approach. Yes, love that. Pareto principle. Funny puppy videos. Definitely. I am on board with that 100%. All right. 2 more tips for you. Tip number 4, draw on your heroes. Someone help me out by typing that in the chat. Tip 4, draw on your heroes. Think of someone you deeply admire. Who is someone you deeply admire? Is it a mentor, a former boss, a family member, a celebrity, a thought leader? How might that person you admire respond to an emotionally overwhelming situation? That's a question I want you to keep in mind. How would someone you admire respond to an emotionally overwhelming situation? That question alone can provide a new lens through which you can view the situation, and it can help you respond in a way you feel proud of. By thinking about how someone we admire would react, we're essentially stepping out of our own immediate emotional response. And it gives you an external framework, a lens, different lens to view the situation. Because our chosen heroes, again, could be a family member, someone you've worked with in the past, it could be someone you don't even know. But often, our chosen heroes are our chosen heroes because they reflect something we value, our core values, our priorities, our aspirations. So by thinking about how would that person respond, we gain clarity about what's genuinely important to us. And we're more likely to do the next step, the next thing we do is more likely to align with our own personal and professional values. All right, that's tip number 4, draw on your heroes. Our final tip, number 5, is to learn your triggers. So tip number 5 is to learn your triggers. Be proactive. Again, you cannot get rid of your emotionality completely, but you can learn to manage yourself and your environment. You have more influence than you think. And if you know that certain situations or cues send you into an emotional spiral, you can be more strategic. So, recognizing our triggers means we anticipate potential emotional upsets. So, for example, if you are aware that being interrupted during a meeting sets off a feeling of disrespect for you, you can mentally prepare for it. Triggers often make us feel out of control, but when we know them, we can reclaim some of that power. We can go from being reactive in situations to more proactive. Is this 100% foolproof? No. But even if you could get 40, 60, 70% improvement, wouldn't that be huge? The other thing about examining our triggers is that it forces us to be more self-aware. We're forced to ask ourselves why certain things affect us the way they do. What is it about this? Which can many times help us uncover past experiences or even deep-seated beliefs that are unhelpful or outdated that are still shaping our reactions. And again, that gives you power to then work on changing those. So, another example, you may notice that being rushed. This is a big trigger for me. Being rushed. You have a last minute meeting or you have a tight project turnaround leads to feelings of panic for you. So as a result, you may start allocating more time than you think you'll need, doubling the amount of time you think something will take you. If team meetings often feel rushed, maybe you suggest extending the time or offering a more structured agenda with someone who is the timekeeper. So you may use tools, calendar, or time management apps, so you have buffer periods between appointments and you're not just dashing off from one thing to the next. Another example, also very, very common for sensitive strivers, we talk about this a lot in Resilient, is feeling anxious when you're asked unexpected questions or you're not prepared. Again, you cannot predict every curveball, but preparation is key. So you may anticipate and prepare for this trigger by familiarizing yourself with potential topics before the meeting. I was just talking to another client who's getting ready to sell certain ideas up her chain of leadership. And we're helping her manage this fear of uncertainty by having pre-wiring conversations, meeting with certain key stakeholders so she knows what objections and concerns she needs to anticipate from them. Again, the aim is not to eliminate all triggers. That is impossible. But your goal is to develop some strategies that help you respond more constructively. So, those are our 5 tips today to set you on a path to greater emotional balance at work. So I want to go over those one more time. Get granular. Identify your emotions and label them with specificity. 2, create distance from your emotional responses. 3, change your state or your environment. 4, draw on your heroes. And 5, learn your triggers. So which of those resonated with you the most? Amazing. And thank you all. I see so many of you taking notes here in the chat. And Amber, can we try to predict every curveball? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You cannot. And that's where trust in yourself comes in, is that you have to realize that even though you can't predict every curveball, you'll be fine. And you'll be able to deal with it no matter what is thrown at you. Excellent. So let me hear which of those 5 tips resonates with you the most. Get granular, create distance, change your environment, draw on your heroes, learn your triggers. Excellent. Jason said all 5. Love to hear it. Now, if everything I shared resonated with you today, Helping you stop overthinking, reclaim your confidence, manage your emotions effectively is exactly the work we do inside of Resilient. And that is our 3-month group coaching program for sensitive strivers like you. And as I mentioned at the top of today, we start on Thursday. The last round of this year begins on Thursday, but enrollment closes tomorrow. So there are about 24 hours left to get in. We have a few spots left. So if you want to emerge by the end of this year feeling more confident, feeling more secure in your own skin, more assertive, with more inner peace and presence, then I want to invite you to join us. The QR code is here on the screen. Again, all you have to do is take out your phone, open your camera app. You'll be taken directly to a link to learn more. And you can also head to melodywilding.com/resilient. This program is designed keeping in mind the unique challenges and strengths of us sensitive strivers. This is not just another cookie cutter coaching program where, I'm the one asking you to join, but you never hear from me again. I am in the weeds with you. We have multiple calls a week. You have a supportive community, a space where you can learn, grow, evolve alongside your fellow sensitive strivers. You are guided in real time by me and my expert co-coach in the program, Wendy Carey, who understand your journey. We have navigated similar paths ourselves. And this program is about building the inner resilience, mastering your mind, celebrating who you are as a sensitive striver. So you are not the thing standing in the way of your success anymore. For over 4 years now, I have been running this program. I have seen it absolutely transform our alumni's lives, from skip level promotions, 6-figure bonuses. We've had people named to 40 under 40 list. We've had people win public office. But what's even more meaningful and incredible is their inner transformations, how the people in their lives and how our alumni themselves notice how happier, lighter, more optimistic they have become. So again, time is running out. To save your spot, head to that QR code here on the screen or melodywilding.com/resilience. If you have any questions at all, and thank you to our amazing alumni here in the chat who are saying highly recommend Resilient, and Connie, who said Melody is the real McCoy. So appreciate that. It means the world. And you know how proud I am of each and every one of you. So we would love to have you join us. Feel free to direct message me if you have any questions at all. I'm here to get you what you need. That's all for today. I will be back tomorrow, actually, with Wendy Carey, our co-coach in the Resilient program, talking about how to stop overthinking everything. So you will want to join us for that. But that's all for today. Take care, everyone, and we will talk to you very soon.